Hey, and good evening. This is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. And how glorious today it actually worked with my OBS and Twitch. Good evening, AJ. Thank you for moderating the stream once more. And please hear the disclaimer. We are talking about playing a computer game. Please leave the real railway installations and trains to the professionals. Today we are going to look at something that we have to do all the time when we're running passenger trains in Great Britain and the UK. We have to look at station duties and train dispatch. And this is connected with some signals that can be given in the process, and so it is more or less also a signaling stream. I would want to do this on a little DLC that we have not had so far on the stream, the Glossop line from Manchester to the east to a little town called Hatfield and Glossop. And yeah, I think it is a rather sweet and nice DLC with a unique way of turning your train around. At the end, like going through a triangle at Hadfield and Glossop, and then with the train turned around back to Manchester, or not turned around, depends on whether you're going back to the other terminus there. Yeah, and I want to do this to discuss things that we have to do when departing from a station, what is not actually such a trivial thing to do, because you always have to make sure that nobody gets in any danger when we are leaving our station. For that, I picked a service that starts at Manchester and runs towards Hadfield, and then if we have the time, I would like to do, well, not really the circle, but the triangle, and get back to Manchester again. So the first part would be to Hadfield via Glossop, and then back the whole thingy. That would be this service. I already played it, as you can see, and I want to play it in summer so that we have enough light at 10 to 6. But maybe not with clear weather, because it is unfortunately one of the DLCs that have those very, very whitewashed highlighting. Lighting storm is not what I want, maybe. But maybe we can have light clouds or heavy clouds or something like this. Not misty, rain shower. Oh, let's do rain shower. Maybe. And obviously I have a presentation to cut in between about the station duties that you can read about in the RSSB rulebook. They actually have a whole module. Obviously there is presentations, says AJ, and obviously it is from the RSSB rulebook. Where else would it be from, right? Since this is where I got all my intel and information from, more or less. And it is the horse's mouth when it comes to train driving rules in the UK, is it not? Where would you want to go to get the first-hand information, if not from the rulebook? So, this is our train. Before we actually start this properly, we will have a little look at our train, our British Rail Class 323, and why I'm not a friend of this era of DLCs lighting wise is that you can see that the signals are always quite difficult to read and see, and even when you get closer, the red is not always so easy to distinguish from the yellow and the green sometimes vanishes in the sky. Well, we're sitting here on platform 2 in Manchester Piccadilly, not to be confused with Manchester Victoria, what is the station where the Northern Transpennine services start and go towards Leeds. From Manchester Piccadilly you can actually go towards the West Coast mainline more or less and then to London, but this is not where we are going. We are taking this turn to the east to Glossop and Hatfield. And our train is a train that can be run with the driver alone. We have seen this on Birmingham Cross City with monitors and other driver-only equipment, but also with a guard. So we have equipment for, we will get to this in the presentation more or less closer, where the driver can communicate with the guard by this buzzing equipment, and you can use codes that you have written down here. You also know a table like this from the 101 in the game, for example, and here you can also always read the codes, and if you have like a dash in between, it is a short spacing between. It would be a BEP code for 1, 2, and what codes can be transmitted like this. We will get to this later in the presentation too. And obviously this is not a one-way thing, but the guard that is not in the front cab obviously can do this from different parts in the train. Noteworthy one thing that the guard can do obviously is travel in the back cab that is not used for driving, and can use the buzzer from there to send the signal that the train is ready for depart. But also in the middle car, not the one with the handicapped sign, but the other one, has like those panels here, and there is a guard panel. Guard always has to insert this key so that the train knows in which position the guard is actually giving orders, and then the guard can, we have seen this in the new Isle of Wight for example also, he can open and close the doors here. The local one would be the first one to open, then the guard steps out, checks if everything is good, and then opens the rest, and when closing it the other way around. And here is the other end. It does not work at the moment because the door is open. If it is closed and the train is actually ready to depart, then it would be actually possible. And there is one scenario here where you can play as a guard, travel in the back cab, and then walk through the train, check tickets, and then leave the train at the platform through the middle car and use those panels. And if you want to do it as a driver, then you can use the key here, and then the controls for operating the power doors and everything rest solely here with the driver. So this train allows for both. The platforms actually do not allow for both, really, because what we do not have are any monitors or mirrors that allow us as a train driver to see along the train if all the doors are properly closed. It's not so much a problem if the platform is straight, but sometimes the platform is not straight, and then it can be difficult for the driver to see whether all the doors have closed properly, or if someone got stuck with their hair or body parts or clothing or luggage or whatever in a door. And then obviously you should refrain from starting your train if something like this happens. And there is a procedure outlined in the rule book that well, actually not one procedure, but a whole bunch of procedures, always depending on whether you are driving this train alone and driver only operation, or if you have a guard on board, and if the platform is staffed, so if there is actually staff on the platform that can do some of the duties, and then those people have to communicate with each other. and if we are in the simplest version, then the driver is on their own and there is no guard and no platform staff, and still it has to work. But maybe just get into the service and run this train, and as soon as we get to the other end, maybe then we can have a look at what the RSSB book provides in signals and checks and other rules for doing this. We obviously have to use the master key, reverser to neutral first. If we want to do driver only operations, then we have to put the key into the slot and take control of the doors. We check the doors and then we release it so that people can board. You can use the time to set up the safety systems. For the AWS it will be the second one from the top. Then for some reason the DSD is activated, but not so the vigilance. And now look at this. This is the vigilance thing that needs to be turned, and look where the key is inserted. It's one up, but it turns the correct one. But the key animation is in the wrong slot. Interesting, haven't seen that before. We can see our starter signal has turned green, what is nice because that is always the first thing that you have to check before you think about closing the doors and getting ready for departure. I always like I always like to use those number 3 external cameras and put them in a place where I can more or less role play that this is my head out of the window. And then usually you would close the door like 30 seconds before departure time. At least this is what is communicated. And there we go. Leaving Manchester Piccadilly. Speed limit is 15. Rain shower is the sky. The headlights are already set the way that we want them and need them. When we're turning around at the other end, we need to operate the headlights though. Turn on the tail lights, turn off the headlights. And in the other cab on the other end, the other way around. Limit increases to 25 here, as soon as the train has passed those signs. We have a 3-car train. Now we're passing a sign allowing us 35, as soon as we have cleared the sign. Lines are marked with the same shortcuts that are used in the sectional appendix. UE, DE. Not entirely sure, I did not check what it means. U and D are typically for up and down, and this E maybe for east. At least the would make sense. Don't know if this is a platform where you would actually use your horn, since... Oh, it is not. It is not 6. I should not have used the horn at any rate, because between midnight and 6 you should not use your horn unless in an emergency. Closing in on the first stop in Ashburys. Brake to 3. Reverse it in neutral. Check and open the doors. Signal is green. Close the doors. Check for the doors having closed. Light is off. Departure. Spectre, good evening. Nice to have you in the chat and on the stream. Even though it is raining at Manchester. The dogs are fine, thank you for asking. At least at the moment. Well, Kara has a bit of a stomach problem, but she seems to be okay. And we are, well, more or less recovering from our colds, or actually flus. My voice at any rate is more or less back. So again, no horn when passing the station here, because it is not yet 6. And it is not an emergency. Glossop line, yes. I thought when we were talking about train dispatch and station duty, then we can use the Glossop line. What is the DLC where you first can play in a scenario a guard? But we're not playing this scenario with a guard. I personally am not so super anxious about playing a guard. I prefer playing the driver. What would be cool is if you could actually get buzzer signals from a simulated guard. Double yellows. CD radar, hey. And he has a dog emoji. Isn't that nice? A howling dog. Reduction to 40 will take place when we're stopping anyway. Yellow signal. We know that the next signal is at the end of the platform. It's the starter signal. So we don't need to slow down for the signal because we have to stop anyway. Church bells ringing for the 6 o'clock. Cheating a bit for the stop. Mein Hund jagte immer Leuten auf dem Fahrrad hinterher, bis ich ihm das Fahrrad wegnahm. Yes, that is a good idea. Signal is proceed. This is a proceed aspect, even if it is a yellow one. Well, a dog and a bike is a murderous combination sometimes. There is that service on Glossop where you are supposed to drive a freight train 66 up that hill that thin barely went over 10 miles. Oh, I did not check out the freight services. Now careful, we are actually running on the yellow. Started our run at yellow, the next one is yellow again. Since we know where the next signal is, we can actually accelerate a bit because the next signal is not before we get to the next bridge, so there is a bit of track before we get there. A classic, the dog and the bike joke, true. But the signal has turned green. We can accelerate back to line speed. At least the AI drivers are quite fast with the 66s here. Line split here. This is always a station where the train does not want to stop as fast as you think, because we are running uphill 1%. You think, well, this train should slow down from the gradient much more. Again, doors are open, people are getting in, we want to close, there is no signal, okay. Closing the doors. Check that nobody gets wedged in. Hazard lights are off, forward. And see the train move ahead. And this line definitely is one where you have to stop, 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 stop in a quite short succession. And where you can really test out your class 323 about acceleration and how to slow down for the next stop, when to coast like this. At what distance it is good to put in the number 1 brake. So more or less go for a nice stop. The stop markers are more or less in the spots where you would expect them to be. When you use the keyboard shorts, always a bit of getting used to when the switching point is. Everyone in, we're not closing yet because we are a bit early for the departure. 30 seconds before 7:30 we want to close the doors. That is obviously at 6:07. Signal is clear. Signal, platform. Train safety check. Doors are closed. Nobody is wedged in the doors. No reason why we should not leave. But obviously we wait for the scheduled time. Signal is still green. Forward. Release the brakes. Power. And go. Godley is the next. Train from the opposite. With this nice church in the background. Passing some motorway. Again, we won't make it to top speed because we have to slow down for Godley again. 450. I'm so happy that we have the yard counter back. It was a bit cumbersome with only the what was it called? The barber pole. You always had to guess where the stop marker actually is. Neutral. Doors. So I guess usually we should have a guard here because there is no driver-only equipment. Newspaper stand, but no mirror and no monitors. (9:30). Check the signal. Signal is green. Close doors. See if the people are staying back. Doors are closed. Well, this guy's already using his phone to complain about the doors being closed in his face. Signal is still green. Hattersley is the next stop. More viaducts. Always hitting the vigilance paddle, or more or less letting it go and repressing it. Here's one of the derelict stations. One of the rare stops we have the platform on the other side of the train. This is one of those lines that you buy, play once, say, oh, that's a nice route, and never play again. Yep. And then you take it out of your crate again and play it again sometime. It's one of the routes that you can nicely play with an audiobook on, and then you really drive this train one direction. Then do the triangle at Hadfield and Glossop, and then back again. For example, start with an empty coach move. But what really should be fixed in the DLCs of this era is the lighting. This hard summer lighting is a bit too much, and you can't really see your signals anymore because everything gets so whitewashed. If you compare this with the lighting in West Somerset remastered, that is so different. This is why I have not bought Maintalbahn, although it is a 25% discount. I now would try it and then let it be. Better wait for Rosenheim. Well, yeah, true. Maintalbahn is one of those that are marked for being picked up at a sale. To be fair. Broadbottom. Charming name for a station. AJ, you're awake? could go on with Harry Potter references. Oops. But it was Longbottom in Harry Potter, right? Not Broadbottom. Broadbottom. Aye. I'm currently on break from this game. I believe that Semmering brings me back to playing. Yeah, we have all those. We all have those phases playing something else, and Semmering, I'm really looking forward to Semmering. It is hard to believe that it is not really beautiful, the Semmering barn. Interesting outfit here on this guy. Do we have a signal? No. No signal. What is it with my brake handle? Spectre asks if DTG has been taken over by Austrians or French. Yes. I guess the plans for the Austrian routes have already been in the drawer. But I really hope that we are getting more French content with regular French routes, more French signaling. Limit to 40 here. Because we are on one of those beautiful viaducts. And the next one again. Over this Glossop Creek, or whatever it is called. Yeah, I started with rain deliberately, and now we have this harsh lighting that I am always so afraid of on those DLCs. We can accelerate to 60 line speed here after having cleared the viaducts. But here there is a fixed caution signal board with an AWS magnet that you really have to take seriously, because the signal is sometimes red. And you don't want to spat out here. Most of the time you don't need to slow down. Here's the magnet for it. But sometimes it actually is red, and here is this fixed caution board. Like a red signal that is not a yellow signal that is always yellow. And now we have to take care. I'm slowing down. At the same time taking care of the reduction in speed limit to 40. And now the signal comes around the corner soonish. And we can see the signal is red. So good thing that we took it seriously and slowed down. If a train is coming from the other direction, then typically this is a slight indication that the signal has cleared already. With no train coming, it is more or less typical that the signal is red. That would be extremely nice. I know it will never happen, but per se remastered with the existing line and various types of trains, including freight, would be cool. Yeah. Spectre, you're right. Shame that we don't have more major stations like Hauptbahnhof or core S-Bahn routes. I would more than love to have Wiener S-Bahn core collection in the game. Signal cleared while we were going slowly. There is the train that we had to wait for. Getting the feather, we can go 40 here. At the end of the bridge we have to slow down to 10 though, because that is the entrance to the triangle. Again, a nice viaduct. Wiener S-Bahn. True. So, and here is this. This is a really weird piece of track here. Before going into the triangle, actually, we go into a single track part. And then across the switch to the right was for the stop at Dinting platform 2. And this is one corner of this turnaround triangle. Here at Dinting, to the right we're going to Glossop, the left is the line to Hadfield, and behind this patch where Dinting station is, there is the third corner, or not the third corner, the third side of this triangle, where we can go from Glossop to Hatfield directly. So this is one of the situations where you cannot see the whole of your train without driver-only equipment. It's necessary to have a guard here. They can see the whole length of the train. Mind the gap. Yeah, there is the mother of all gaps here. Because the train has to bend so much. Some people actually have to jump into the doors to not fall into the gap. Ten across the switches. And then we can accelerate to 25 and then 45. Before we have to slow down for the terminal stop at Glossop. Yeah, Maintalbahn. I'm a bit interested in the Siemens D0 though. In real life, I think those are very, very comfortable trains. The Siemens D0 Hazis. That's why we have extendable platforms under doors on modern trains. You are right. So that people don't fall in the gaps. Again, here we have to slow down as soon as we see the permanent caution signal board from the back. And there is the magnet for another permanent caution signal board that we're approaching now. And shortly after that, the limit 10 Limit to 10. We can coast in to Glossop. So, layout of the track. Here you can see this triangle thingy to turn around the train. A bit like the triangle at Norton Fitzwarren in West Somerset Railway. Turning around the train just by going across the triangle. They don't give you a lot of time here to go to the other end though. If you're not using the keyboard short, then it can totally happen that the AI takes over in the meantime and the train runs away without you. Time to get the train prepared for putting it to the other side. Just a quick check about the performance. Return to free roam. Off. Did I turn off the lights? Yeah, they are off. Don't forget your key. Otherwise the doors cannot be operated from the other side. And then we switched to the other cab. Take possession so that the AI cannot steal our train. Doors on. Passengers are loading. The doors have stayed open. Luckily enough. Taillights off. Day head on. Then we have to get the cameras in the correct position. That one for the left side. That one for the right side. And we're ready. Spectre said, Matt once said that British rail drivers have to set the DRA even in front of the buzzer because technically it's a red light. Big red tape, isn't it? Yeah, but this is true. Every time the train stops anywhere, even if the driver gets out to check if the lights are working or whatever, always more or less use the DRA once more than you would than not. And on the cab that you're not using, it should actually be activated, no? Anyway, but it is not by default activated. Arrogant, hey, see you. Nice to see you on the chat. Doors need to be closed. Seen about the Derby line. Yes, I have already researched into Japanese signaling and what kind of signaling is used on the Tadami line. It is the first time that I cannot understand the prime rules because I don't understand the language that they are put in. Spectre says, I mean, who runs off into a buffer because they forget? Well, in Switzerland, as we have seen on the Luzern-Sursee route, you can get an ETCS movement authority to pass the buffer block with 40 kilometers per hour. I wouldn't expect that someone actually does that. I have great news. I cleared out the vents on my PC tower and it is less loud. Oh, that is good news. So I hope it is running much faster now. Maybe I should do this on my PC as well, then it does not overheat that much. New content. What is harder? What is harder, Czech or Japanese? So far I have not started with Japanese. And Czech is really a hard language to learn. Below me. I think you can learn Dutch and Swedish and Norwegian and Danish in the same time that you need to learn Czech. Short acceleration to 45. Magnet for the constant caution board. Can coast a bit because this signal we can actually see from quite far away. But we have to slow down to 25 after this bridge. Somewhere after this bridge at least, signal is green. But this, for example, is a situation where you can hardly see the signal in front of the bushes. Before we get to the switch, we have to slow down to 10. Dutch must be easy for German. I should think so, yes. Dutch is quite similar when it comes to word order or flexing words. So if you are familiar with the German language, then you can learn Dutch. Much easier than Czech or Japanese. That is not a secret. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Japanese content. They have not released what kind of trains they will have on the Tadami line, right? And if it will be set contemporary or in a historic setting. Eric says learning French in AZERTY keyboard is terrible because no capital C with a CD. Alright. CD Radar says I just saw one such joke about learning Czech. So we can accelerate. Oh. Heavens. One of my arrow keys in my keyboard got stuck. Your internet is crunchy. Sorry to hear that. I hope our internet will be okay during the stream. So here we have to slow down to 15. Much earlier than I thought. But here the limit of 15 is already in front of the permanent caution board. So you have to start slowing down before you get to the permanent caution board for the other direction that you see from behind. So now we are in Hadfield. And we will have to turn around again. there is not a lot of time to lose for those little services here. Doors, and we can do the routine again. We're preparing to change the cab. Plop. Return to free roam. Anything I forgot? Off. Don't forget the key for the doors. Lights are okay. DRA is set, so we can go to the other end. Safety. Lights. Master key. Neutral. Door keys. Unset DRA, because here we don't have a signal that stops. Named after James Hadfield of Metallica. Actually, I was thinking the same thing, Spectre. I actually had to check if it is Hatfield, like a hat, or if it is Hadfield. And I was thinking of the guitar player from Metallica as well. But probably the town has existed before that. So what does Eric say? For some reason when using the cam, doing left up and down or doesn't work when holding shift. Aha. That's weird. Can you do a video on driving the rocket train from Wolfenstein, the new Colossus? That is an interesting idea. Maybe I should do this. I own the game, at least. The new Colossus. Well, I think I do. Live presentation time. Yes, exactly. So what does the RSSB handbook tell us about what we have to do at station duty, respectively train dispatching? There is this whole module SS1, station duty and train dispatch. In the signals section, there are those little signals that tell you that there can be a CD or an RE indicator. And this section is quite confusing because it gives you a protocol for every combination that there can be, whether you are running a driver-only train, whether you have a guard, whether the platform is staffed or not staffed, whether you have, like on modern trains, power-operated doors, or if you have a slam door train or a slam door train with a central door locking device. And all those combinations end up in a list of different procedures, what makes it a bit confusing, in my opinion, to read this section. And you always wonder, why do you need that much stuff? And I tried to go through it and find more or less a general protocol, regardless now who is doing it, that is done before the train can leave the platform. And we are always talking about the train is at the station stop, where we want passengers to be able to alight or get on the train. And as soon as we allow passengers to get on or off the train, there is always the risk that the passengers are doing something that can put them in harm's way. And we have to make sure that nothing bad happens as soon as we want to get our train starting again. And what we sometimes do in the game is just like hitting the Y key or the U key or whatever key you have for opening the door, and do not even look what is happening there. And the passengers are doing strange things anyway and hopping out of the window or on the side of the train where there is not even a platform. Good thing is that never ever anything happens with our simulated passengers. With real world passengers, this would be obviously a different story. So what do the rules actually say? What is the protocol for making sure that a train can safely leave a station after having stopped for opening the doors so that the passengers can get on and off the train? The first thing that they always tell you in the short formula signal, platform, signal, action is check the signal. So before you actually start doing your closed doors, get the train ready for departure thing would be to check that you have a proceed aspect. This can be a green signal, this can be a double yellow or single yellow, is always proceed. If you don't have a signal of that kind because you can't see it, then you have to check if you have a banner repeater that shows a proceed aspect. That could be like this or like this, whether you have a 3 aspect or a 2 aspect banner repeater, at least one that does not tell you that the signal is at stop. And sometimes you don't even see that. You can have an off indicator. On the Birmingham Cross City line, there is one station with a working off indicator, and this off indicator is lit if the connecting signal is showing at the moment a proceed aspect. Can always be the situation that there is a train between here and the next signal, so it is not necessarily a given that the signal will show a proceed aspect when we get there, but at least we get an indication that at the moment the signal is showing a proceed aspect. If it's showing a red light, then the off indicator would be off and not showing the off. So if it is turned on and showing the off, then the signal is not showing a danger aspect. So those are the constellations, and then obviously there can be the situations where you don't see a signal and no banner repeater and no off indicator. Then obviously you have to live with that and start your train without a signal. Sometimes there are rules for that. If you get delayed longer than your normal starting situation, then you have to go more cautious, because you're more or less dropped out of the safety of your timetable. But this depends on the rules on the track that you are traveling on. Typically would be check for whatever signal there is if it is showing a proceed aspect. If you're running on an ETCS train, obviously you would check if you have a movement authority, and if you have neither, then you need the signaler's permission, either given to you on radio, or we have seen this last week with a yellow flag that allows you to pass a signal at danger, or probably also the subsidiary signal, the 2 position lights, the white position lights showing you that you can pass a red signal. Also, that would probably qualify as a signaler's permission to do so. So the first thing is that you have to do is, are you allowed to go? And then you initiate your sequence. And the first thing that is done then is the safe to close doors check. So this is a situation where the doors are still open because passengers can go on the train or alight. And if this check is satisfactory, so that we can see there are no more passengers close to the doors, it is safe to close them, then there can be a station work complete signal. So if there are at least 2 people involved, so that they can signal each other, they can give each other a signal. Let's say the platform staff to the guard, for example, can give the signal. And this is where this indicator that you can sometimes see at platforms, a CD indicator, comes in. If there is a person in charge of the dispatch at the platform, then this person can signal the driver that the station work is complete. It is safe to close the doors by lighting this CD, close doors indicator. And then the driver can close the doors, or the guard can close the doors also. This signal for station work complete can also be a raised arm over the head. One arm, or a dispatch bat or baton over the head, raised above the head by dispatch staff can be a signal for station work complete. At night it can be a white lamp that can be shown for this signal, held steadily, and then the doors can be closed, and if it is actually a train that distinguishes between closing and locking the doors, they can be locked. After that, we cannot just run away. Then, as soon as the doors are closed, we have to do the train safety check. That means we're checking if the doors are actually properly closed. And for that, we have some technical installations that help us. The first thing are those external orange hazard lights that we typically have on the outside of the trains that light up as soon as the doors are open, and they should turn off as soon as the doors are properly closed. Whereas on the inside of our train, we have this traction interlock indicator that should light up as soon as the doors are closed properly. So the external orange hazard lights off is an indication for the doors having closed properly, and the traction interlock indicator on is an indicator for the doors have closed properly. And sometimes on some trains this can only be seen by the driver. Some have that also on the guard panel. If the guard is in the rear cab, then he can or she can see it there. So at the moment we're not talking about who is doing what, but what is the general sequence by going through this. And not only do we have to check if the doors are closed properly, we also have to check if nobody is trapped in the doors with the hair, with the clothing, with the jewelry, with their luggage, with body expansions or whatever. Oh no, says CD Radar, I know what the beginning of my name means. Yes, close doors, Radar. Always close the doors before you go raiding. And you have to check if nobody is in contact with the train. So if nobody is leaning against the train to smoke a cigarette or chat up someone or whatever. So nobody needs to be in contact with the train. Typically they should be outside of the yellow line and to be not in contact with the train, and nobody is trapped. And then it is safe to start the train, what is more or less a catch-all category. Obviously, if there is a plane part crash into the train, that it would not be safe to start the train, or if there is an elephant standing in front of the train on the track, or whatever reason there might be that it is not safe to start the train, even though the doors are closed properly, nobody's in contact with the train, and the doors have not trapped anyone. And then you can get a train safety check complete signal. That, and this is the fun thing, can also look the same way that the station work complete signal can look like. And at least this is what the rules say so, and it depends on in what protocol you are in, so you know who is giving that signal to whom and what it means. There is no corresponding indicator for that from what I've seen. Unlike the ready to start signal, what can be the third signal in this succession here, that can be given to the driver then, and this can be given with an R or RA, a right away indicator. And those indicator I've seen in the game but not working yet. It's Peterborough, I think. There is one signal that is captioned with RA at the end, and I think this is a right away indicator. If someone has seen one working in the game, please tell me. That would be very interesting, but so far I have not seen that. And the same indication for a ready to start signal is what the guard buzzes or bells to the driver, this beep beep. The two short signals. What you also can do in this scenario where you play the guard, you would do beep beep, and then the driver has to answer beep beep and then start the train. The British and their acronyms suspect, and my head is still spinning from the types of level crossings. Yes. That is true. Do we have acronyms here? I don't think so, right? Here it is more like the good old buzzer code table, what we have to do. And if the train does not support that by using the buzzer or the bell, the guard can also use a green hand signal, like a green flag or something green, or a green lamp at night to give this. And this is a bit of what we know from Germany as well. This guy stepping out of the train, leaning out of the train, holding up a green disc for the driver to see, blowing the whistle, closing the door while the trains are already going on. Typically for the British trains, we would have this beep beep from the guard, beep beep from the driver, and then we go. And in this scenario here where you play the guard, from what I've seen, you do the deed buzzing to the driver, and then the simulated driver buzzes back. It would be a great thing if you could have a simulated guard for the driver, so you're driving the train and you're getting the beep beep from the guard, and then you can start the train. And what then? You just put your foot down and the train starts? No, obviously. You do the second part of signal, platform, signal, action. Again, you check if you still have proceed aspect or equivalent before you actually start your train, because for some reason this might have changed in between. Yes, but only from rear cab, not from a door controller, which is rubbish. What is a rubbish? It does not work in this scenario, you say? It does not work from the door controller. That is a bit sad. Okay, but at least from the rear cab it works, and it would be so great actually to drive the train and have that guard simulated, that beep beep buzzes it for you. Well, yeah, maybe they fixed it. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we will get more guard action for some reason. This is quite a big thing in the community to have guard. The possibility to play a guard. So maybe we will have to find a name for him. Hank cannot be the guard, right? He's our brakeman or conductor. So we will have to find a character who is the guard as soon as we get the simulated guard. So this is more or less the general protocol, not saying who is doing what at the moment. Obviously, the departing thing is what the driver does in the end. Gary the guard. Okay, we will go back to this. You can play conductor on AI trains. Yes, that works as well, yeah. You can, but they are so frustrating if you want to do a proper coupling procedure and the AI trains just bump into the cars. No, I'm not sure. So now let's see who is actually doing what. Of this procedure here. So who can actually do something? Let's say this is our line platform. This is a booth where somebody can sit in. This is the train at the platform. Obviously, we have the driver in the train, typically in the front cab. And we have sometimes, not always, a guard. And the guard is sometimes in the rear cab. Sometimes there is a guard room specifically where the guard can be while driving. Sometimes the guard is walking along the train and checking tickets, for example. So the guard is a more or less a mobile institution on the train, whereas the driver is typically sitting, squatting comfortably in the front cab. And then on the platform, there can be a so-called person in charge, PIC, of dispatch, and if she is lucky, she has more people helping with the dispatching. That would be called the dispatch staff. And if you look in the rules, you can always find who is doing what. Dispatch staff, PIC of dispatch, the guard, and the driver. If there's only one person staffing this platform, then this one person is at the same time the person in charge of dispatch, the PIC. So this one always exists if there is a staff platform, and those not always. And obviously You don't always have staff on the platform. You don't always have a guard on the platform. Unfortunately, Theodorus is not here. Probably he would say that where he lives, every platform is staffed with a lot of people because people need jobs. And there are always several guards on the trains, maybe. If they have people for working each and every level crossing, and probably also to work every platform. But the typical situation is either you have a guard on your train and the platform is not staffed, or you're actually on your own. Nobody is staffing the platform. There is no guard on the train, and you're doing driver-only operation on your own. And depending on who is there to do things, this matrix here gets filled. You can have a guard on the train, or you can doing driver only on a staffed platform or on unstaffed platform. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 slots already given from who is there to do things. And then we have to distinguish between running a train that has power operated doors, so where we can simply push a button to open a door and automatically lock the doors along the whole train, or if we have an old train like the 101 with slam doors, meaning we can neither open nor close the doors from sitting in our driver's seat, but we have to rely on the passengers to open and close the doors. And yeah, if you look or watch old clips, old video clips about those trains that are coming into the station, and people are actually open the doors and jumping out before the train has come to a stop properly. And this is maybe a thing that can be quite dangerous. And then some of the slam door trains have a central door locking, at least. So as soon as the doors are closed, you can push a button and then the doors are locked so that they cannot be opened during travel, and the train has to come to a stop, and then the central door locking can be removed, and then people can open the doors. And so with the slam doors without central door locking, you would have to rely on everyone behaving properly to open and close the doors. And now we have a matrix that we can fill. It is actually a 3 by 4, resulting in a 12 matrix, 12 fields that can have a different protocol for that. And if you read the rules, section 3, you can find for almost every field a protocol for who is doing what in this situation. Like power operated doors with guard on train on a staffed platform, you would have this. On power operated doors, guard on train on an unstaffed platform, you would look into this section, and so on. Important for us in the game, especially the 3.8 power operated doors, unstaffed platform, driver only sequence. We have one for central door locking on a staffed platform with guard, without staff on the platform, staffed platform with driver only, central door locking, and so on. What we do not have is slam door, driver only, unstaffed platform, for reasons, because what is that poor driver supposed to do if he has or she has to rely on the people on the train opening and closing the doors properly? So if nobody is there to close the doors, then the driver cannot even activate the central door locking, and this would probably result in a lot of mayhem. So here those two things are not described, and I guess this is why this is not acceptable for doing. So driver only with an unstaffed platform only works, at least you can find a protocol for it, with power operated doors, so that the driver can open and close the doors from his or her seat. And if we translate this for going back to this, is what we had as a general protocol for doing all this. Let's look at it in the 3.8 section protocol that is driver only. No staff on the platform, no train, no guard on the train. So everything the driver has to do on her own. To check for the proceed aspect is a thing that the driver has to do, obviously. But nobody is here to give him a stationary complete signal. Also no CD indicator, because that would be done by the person in charge of dispatch, the staff of the platform. So the safe to close doors check must be done anyway, but it is done by the driver, him or herself. It cannot get any signals because nobody is helping him. The rule says check the whole length of the train to make sure that it is safe to close the doors, and for that you should use the driver-only equipment like the monitors or mirrors. And if there are no more monitors or mirrors, the rules send you to well, whatever your train company is telling you how to do it. Then, if there are no monitors and no mirrors, maybe there are cameras in the train that you can use for that. At least as a driver you have to make sure that it is safe to close the doors, so that there is no one standing in the doors, so that the passengers are not close to the doors, and that you can activate it. And then you close the doors, and because they are power operated doors, you don't have to lock them specifically. They get locked as soon as you close them with your button. And then you cannot expect anyone to give you a train safety check signal, because you have to do the train safety check on your own. And for that, it actually splits this tests into steps according to this 3.8 protocol. The first thing is you have to check that the doors closed properly check. This is already here in the train safety check, but here it is taken out and put in front of it. And for that you can look at the orange hazard lights and the traction interlock indicator, if there is one. The orange hazard lights need to be off, the traction interlock indicator needs to be on. And then they always tell you with a red border, don't rely on those lights and the indicator alone, that it is actually safe to start the train. Now you know that the doors have closed properly, but you still have to check if there is anyone trapped in the doors, if there is anyone in contact with the train, because this is maybe something that you don't get communicated by those lights. So if you're sitting there and not are too lazy to put your head out of the window maybe and just check the indicator, yes, it lights up, but someone is caught with their hair in the doors and will be drawn with you as soon as you start your train. You don't want to have that. And the catch-all thing will be taken to the next step as well. Obviously there is nobody to give you a ready to start signal, no RA indicator, no buzzing, no red hand signal, because there is no one that can actually do it. You have to do it on your own. You have to perform your safe to start the train check, what is, well, the same thing as a train safety check. The doors closed properly, nobody trapped, nobody in contact with train, safe to start. Is it safe to start the train? And then you check again your proceed aspect, and then you can depart. So this is the driver only, no staff thing. You got to do everything on your own by using those lights that can help you. And this only works if you can close the doors from your seat by pushing the button. So that is what we do a lot in the game, obviously, because we don't have a simulated guard, we don't have a simulated staff on the platform. If we compare this to how it is done on the 3.5, if we go back to this thing here, 3.5 was power operated doors, guard and staff on the platform. So it is, just have to go through this, the situation where we have all and everything. So we have staff on the platform, we have a guard on the train, we have the possibility to operate the doors from the driver's seat. What or how is it described here? Again, the driver and everyone else, like the guard and the dispatch people, they have to check if the signals or indicators or banner repeaters are giving you a proceed aspect or equivalent, a movement authority or a signal as permission. And then it starts with the dispatch staff. they do the safe to close door check. They make sure all passengers are clear of the train doors. This is what the dispatch people do here, not the guard, not the driver. And then they signal this station work complete signal here, hand overhead, baton overhead, white light, to their boss, to the person in charge of dispatch, and the person in charge of dispatch does not give this closed door indicator to the driver. He will relay the station work complete signal to the guard. And then the guard can close the doors because he got the signal. It is safe to close the doors. If the driver needs to close the doors, then the guard can boss a special signal, close doors, to the driver. Then the driver can push the button to close the doors. Some trains are organized in that way that the guard cannot from his position close all the doors, but the driver needs to do it. So the guard needs to boss it to the driver, and the guard needs to boss it to the driver so the driver can close the doors. Now we have the doors closed. Then the dispatch staff can go on and make the train safety check. They will check the orange hazard lights. Typically the traction indicator cannot be seen by the dispatch people because it is inside the train. And then they do this check, like train doors properly closed. The guard is sometimes supposed to help the dispatch staff according to the rules, and then the dispatch staff and the guard check if the doors closed properly, if no one got trapped, nobody in contact with the train, and it is safe to start the train. The dispatch people are supposed to position themselves in a way that among them at least they can see the whole length of the train to make all this stuff sure. And then they give the train safety check complete signal again to the boss, and the boss is relaying it to the guard. And then the guard got the second time train safety check complete. Doors have been closed already. Train is probably ready to depart, and then the guard can close his local door that has remained open so far. Then the guard can also check the door interlock indicator if it is on, and then he or she can boss the ready to start signal to the driver. Beep beep. Driver again acknowledges it by repeating it. Beep beep. There is also a possibility that the guard gives this signal to the person in charge of dispatch, probably not with the buzzer then, but with the green hand signal, because probably cannot buzz the person in charge of dispatch. This is a situation that can be used if the person in charge of dispatch needs to use a right away indicator. The guard would signal the PIC of dispatch that everything is ready to start, and then the PIC of dispatch would relay it to the driver by way of the right away indicator. What does the guard then do? He gets into his position where he can prepare for initiating an emergency brake if it should be necessary after the train started. And then the driver does the proceed aspect or equivalent check, looks if the signal is still showing that, and then the driver can again check the traction interlock indicator if it is on, and then finally depart. So that is a lot of signaling back and forth, and is the protocol that is set out in the rules in case if you have actually staff on the platform, if you have a guard on the train, and if you have a driver who can operate the doors power wise. So, and then I will save you from going through all those 10 possibilities that are set out here in the rules for the different combination, but you can imagine if any one of them is missing, the job must be taken over by someone else. If there is no dispatch staff, then the PIC of dispatch has to do everything that the dispatch staff would do. If there is no dispatch staff, then the guard has to step in. If there is no guard, then the dispatch staff has to step in, or if there is no dispatch staff and no guard, then the driver more or less has to do everything on her own. Yeah, if you're running an empty coach move so that there are no passengers getting on and off the train, then it is much more simplified. This would be then 315 or 16 or something in those in the rules, and then you don't need to do this complicated checking. You always have to check that the doors have closed or are closed properly, and then you can go. That is more or less what I wanted to tell you about dispatching a train and station and duties, and it is interconnected with the signaling, because those closed doors or right-of-way indicators or those hand signals and lamp signals can be used in this process. Would be a great thing if the guard can actually be simulated, or could be simulated in a way that you can drive the train with a guard, a simulated guard on your train. Wouldn't that be cool? Let's see if I can go into photo mode and look into the train to see. No, unfortunately I cannot see that from here. With photo mode I would have to do that here. Yeah, here the buzzer code from what we have talked about. The closed doors, in case that the guard needs to signal to the driver that the doors need to be closed. That would be guard on train, doors operated by the driver alone. Beep, beep, beep. And they're ready to start. Beep, 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 beep. Lock central door locking, in case we have a slam door train with central door locking. Did. And all the other things that we release central door locking. Did. All the other things that can be necessary, but not so in the game. Almost 30 seconds. Here the orange hazard lights. Oh. Wrong side, obviously, because the camera is still at the hind end. Here's our interlock light, by the way. Door interlock. It is red if it is not on. And we're going back to Glossop before we go to Manchester. Another static caution board here for the signal for going around the triangle towards Glossop. Oh! Thank you for telling me that the presentation is still on. Signal is green, so we can relax. But anyway, we have to slow down to the 10. That is always closer than I think. So the same train is going to Glossop in both directions. I think I've already played services where you would go straight back to Manchester here. So not back to Glossop. That makes more sense with the triangle, right? If you're not going to Glossop again. But here, at least in this situation, you're going back to Glossop on this train. Maybe because it's one of the early trains. But what I can really suggest doing is grab one of the depot trains at the beginning of the day. Get them to Manchester, divide the trains, because you typically have a double traction set then. Drive an empty coach move out to Hadfield or Glossop and then go start the service there. In the dark, maybe with a bit of fog, light rain. I did this yesterday and I found this quite immersive. Unless there's a large number of people commuting between Glossop and Hatfield. Yeah. Going from one end of their garden to the other, probably. At least you can practice changing ends quickly. But again, I would suggest use the shortcut keys for switching cabs so that the AI cannot capture the train in the meantime and drive it away. Isolated, isolated. Taillights on, headlights off. Return to free roam. Reverser off, master key. Door key. Come with me, please. DRI is set. Other side. Keys. Master key. Neutral. Taillights off. Headlights on. Safety. Cameras. People are boarding. Camera for the right side. Since we have been talking about Japanese procedures, they have this formidable way of pointing and calling out a lot with Japanese railways, where everyone is, when she or he is doing something, is pointing at it and calling it out, like doors, signals, passengers, indicators, to make sure that nobody is forgetting anything. Here you can see the door interlock indicator. Now it is red, at least reddish. Close the doors, then we have to make our train safety check. Doors have closed, hazard lights are off, indicator has turned blue or white. Then we mustn't rely on it, we have to make sure nobody got caught. Signal, there is no signal. Ready to start. What's wrong? Why are we not going? So, what is wrong with our train? Haha, I fooled myself, I have the DRA set. Don't really see that during daylight if you have the DRA set. And they are really embarrassed if a train is 1 minute later, so imagine that in Germany. Yeah, well, Germany sometimes it could not hurt if people were a bit more embarrassed about what they are doing. Now we are obviously starting with a delay. But this is what happens. At least the light is set properly. So at night you can see that if the DRA is set, then it is actually shining red. Bright red. So you wouldn't forget it. Constant caution board. Class 700 speaks to you if you leave the DRA on. all those modern things. Yeah, class 700. I'm still a bit miffed that it doesn't do ETCS in the game. That is a bit of a missed opportunity in my opinion. Description is saying Manchester to Hadfield. Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, my description. True. I did not change it. I will just switch it off. Because I only prepared the first service. Now it is the service back. Oh, come on. Did not want to open my door here, I just wanted to be back in my game. Another situation where you think, oh nice, we can accelerate even to 60 then as soon as we are across the bridge. And then permanent caution board. Other train is blocking the view. Where is my signal? Signal is green. You can accelerate. Before we get to Broadbottom, we have to slow down to 40 for the viaduct. But before we get there, there's a turn to the right. Now we're running downhill. What we have to take into account when using the brakes. Brake distances are significantly longer then. Viaduct. And coming in for Broadbottom. No signal. And now the run home. Hattersley. No signal. Here the stepping boards are really scraping along the platform. Godley. Before that, a disused station. Here we get an AWS alarm for a green signal, for what reason ever. Missed it? What did I miss? So if someone knows why we have got this AWS alarm with a signal being green, that empty platform. No, I did not miss the empty platform. I did not want to stop there. Here the distance between our footboards and the platform is correct. Well, you should have pressed the button then. The empty platform request stop button, please. Now we get a yellow signal without an AWS alarm. So that is a bit weird, isn't it? The AWS alarm was somehow earlier than the signal. Oh, was that Zatavkanas? I mean, now you can see that yeah, is that actually a thing? Can you get an AWS alarm for the second but next signal? I'll never say never, right? But it is peculiar at any rate. Zatavkanasnamini. That was the last station, or was it the second but last station? I don't remember. Request stop. Ah, yes. It was a request stop. All the disused stations are request stops. You have to file a request in a written form and send it in to the person in charge of empty platform stops. Flowery Field. Zatavka stop now for Snamini. If you lay it out like this, it makes perfect sense. So we're back in the points. Zatavka. Yeah, right. Pozlitny Zatav. Zastavka was the last stop, wasn't it? Stavka. Alright, a strike. It's a very important word for railroading. This the from word zastavit. The thing is, those Czech words, they actually have a lot of logic in them. It's just hard to remember them all. Guide bridge. Reduction to 40 announced. This is actually before we get to our stop. But it's typically enough to start slowing down at this bridge here. Even if there is... But this is for the signal. TPWS loop. Closing in on the limit to 40. Here's the overspeed loop for TPWS. Here's the 40 before we get on the junction. Zastavka. I always thought it must be so annoying for real-world train drivers. If you want to close your doors, you do your check that there are no passengers at the doors, and then every time you hit your button there is someone running towards the train, trying to hop on board. And you are faced with the decision whether you open your doors again and let them in, or have them locked out. Stanice, yeah, I remember. But for rail we use more the word stanice, which is also station. Zastavka is more likely for bus or tram. Yes, the city radar, he feels this every 2 minutes. Yeah. I can totally get this. So, now the last lap to Ashburys. I prepared the horn, because the keyboard shorts for one of the horn tones doesn't really work. You have to do this with your mouse. The legs and the horn. Classic two-toner, yeah. Yeah, now it is laggy all of a sudden. With the 3-2-3, there are a lot of lags. I've seen this in Birmingham Cross City also. At least this time we managed without a weird sound. Now the vehicles on the freight yard are causing the lags probably. That was for the 40 Morpeth board here. Now it is lagging its feet off the ground. Ashburys. But we are actually so back on the track, on the timetable, that we actually have to wait. Signal. Safe to close doors. Closing doors. Doors closed properly. Train safety. Proceed aspect. Ready to depart. Limit is 60, but it will drop to 40 here. And this old cutout board. Oh, we have to stop at Ardwick. Forgot that. And we will stop at Ardwick. Typically we just run past it. But this service wants to stop at Ardwick. Oh, the first ETCS Pendolino is currently being tested. Where? Not in the game. No, in real life. So rare stop here, where we have the junction, and this is the part actually where you could go towards the West Coast main line. It's more or less a branch to the West Coast main line here. Let's chase this freight train. Now running into Manchester Piccadilly. Don't get jump scared. This red one is not for us. Limit drops to 35 here. Spectre says this 66 is faster than his. Did you come from the West Coast main line? Now we're charging you, now we're chasing you. Gotta slow down to 25. Oh, the signals here. Ah, that actually hit the old spot. At the signals, the limit drops to 25. And after that it drops to 15 as soon as we are on our track. Here's the limit to 15. Hope we made it. Chase is on the case. It's actually going past the station, this AI 66. And for this last leg towards Manchester Piccadilly, we always have so much time that we always arrive a bit early. Yes, of course it is. There would be no point in running the freight train into the Kopfbahnhof here. But it's a good thing that it is actually passing it, boy. You are right. An announcement. You guys can do things I've never seen an announcement on my channel before. So, here we are. Set the DRA so that we get confused again next time we start. Manchester Piccadilly. I think the station looks nice with the lighting here. Always really harsh lighting, but this looks good because you have the roof construction for it. But what I never get around is that those signals are always unclear if this is red, if this is orange, if this is yellow, if this is amber. If we hadn't those pig's ears here, we would not really know. Yeah, but as usual it looks a bit empty only. Tumbleweed. Okay, but just imagine the decks with every track here occupied. I see your point, but nevertheless, this looks good. This must be a nightmare for a graphic artist with all those beams and little rails and the glass panels. I think this looks extremely well. There is not much not much aliasing here. And even with this crazy light, this is definitely a very masterfully crafted station. Kudos to that. Unfortunately, we only have the 2 tracks or the 3 tracks that get the trains to the Glossop line, and this is probably where the freight train went. Yeah. And here it ends. Control V? Ah, that's what you do for doing the announcement. Floating station, yeah. Well, I think this is really nice station in the game. Fortunately, we only have this part for the little Glossop line. Maybe it can be reused for other things, like here we could do a time travel to Crewe and connect it with the Spirit of Steam, Liverpool Crewe. And going on and on and on. We can obviously also go to Birmingham, Cross City. Some of those tracks here can actually be used for free roam. Whoops, no, I got kicked out. With the camera I cannot use it, but I actually drove a train along those tracks, and then there would be a big yard area, and this is partially built in the game. Well, yeah. That was today's story about train dispatch and the station or platform duties. I hope it was not too boring, as I always hope. It's actually a thing that is so central to what we are always doing when running passenger trains in the UK, that I thought it might be interesting what the rules say about how to do this with opening doors. In the instructions you typically in the game get, like, first look at the platform before opening the doors and look at the platform before closing them. And well, yeah, obviously it is important to not pull any passengers in your open doors. Thank you very much for staying with me, and have a good time until we meet again in a different scenario and a different setup. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.